Welcome to Carol's Journey. Today's topic is going to be gun violence. Right now we have a very interesting guest, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. And this guest is Miss Jackie Rowe-Adams. Welcome.
Thank you so very much. And thank you again for just wanting to get the message out on gun violence. I'm Jackie Rowe-Adams, and I'm the co-founder of Harlem Mother Save, Stop Another Violent End.
Thank you. One of the things I like to talk about, and I want to talk in terms of the history, I want to know what your feelings are, what your feelings might be on the New York SAFE Act. This is a special act that was passed January 15th by Governor Andrew Cuomo. And I'd like to know, do you think he went far enough with this, or it needs to be modified? Because I understand there's a lot of criticism and pros and cons about this article, this act that he signed. And the issue is that they felt that it wasn't thought out very thoroughly, and it was signed in a rush because of what was happening then with the Sandy Hook incident.
Well, let me say this, Carolyn. I support what Governor Cuomo did.
Right.
It was signed quickly because all of us was frantic. Something had to be done. Now, what I say to people is, because I've heard the same criticism, oh, it was too hasty. But you know what? Just like we are waiting for President Obama legislation to be passed, we would still be waiting.
That's right.
For legislation to be passed that Governor Cuomo put forth, if we'd wait to tweak it and thought it out and think it out and give people time to say no. And while it was fresh in folks' mind, what happened in Sandy Hook, what's been happening in New York City and New York State, our kids are dying every day, have been dying for years. It would have gave them time to say, you know, to toy, we would never have anything. At least he got a chance to get something on paper, to let people see this is a serious situation, and I'm sorry it took our babies.
Yes, it did.
To bring this forth.
Well, you know, I'd like to ask you what your take on the Second Amendment, because Second Amendment was originally signed in 1791, and was designed to arm the people here against the British. And it was sort of like an open-ended thing that says you have the right to bear arms. Now, a lot of states, actually 31 states right now, do not have a permit, do not ask for a permit to carry a gun. And it's 31 states. And their argument is, hey, it's the Second Amendment, my rights to bear arms and protect my family. What is your take on that? And well, I want to mention that one of the states is Colorado. The other state was where you had the Columbine situation, where there was no permits in terms of guns control. And you know our southern states, okay?
Well, let me say this. I don't know, and I'm sure you know that last year about this time, well, it was in April, that I went to St. Louis, Missouri to address LaPierre at the NRA.
That's right.
The legislation that's put forth now and the things that's being talked about on the table is the same things I spoke to LaPierre about. I spoke about the Second Amendment. I addressed him on microstamping. I addressed him on extensive background checks. I addressed the abandonment of these assault weapons. And everything I addressed with him came to light. Now, that's what people are talking about.
Exactly.
I said to him on Stand Your Own Ground, not knowing it would be so popular now, I said, stand your own ground is if you have an illegal and legal, a permit for a weapon. Stand your own ground should be in your own home to protect your family in your home.
That's right.
Not acting as a vigilante, chasing. At that time when I went, it was the young man that got killed.
That's right.
In the street. I said, not chasing
And looking
our children and looking for
For
something
something.
because you have a weapon. That
And yet
is not
need an
stand
excuse to be able to fire
That's
a
right.
weapon.
That is not stand your own ground.
No, that's
He
right.
said, well, you know, if the mother didn't have a gun to protect her family, she would. I said, in her home.
in her home. That's exactly right.
That is my take on stand your own ground.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like I foreseen it. Everything that I spoke to him on, and this is what we're talking about. So that goes to say, I was not wrong.
Right. Well, you know, I also like we talked about, like Connecticut, for example, does have you do have to have a permit to carry a weapon, but yet we had the violence in Sandy Hook. And I want to talk now in terms of mental health. This is something that was in the act that Governor Cuomo signed, saying that if it's observed that the person had mental problems, it will be reported to the mental health department and then to the criminal justice department. What I'm trying to say is I can't understand the mental portion of it, because recently there was a baby, 6 months old. This happened in Chicago. The father was changing the baby's diapers. Obviously, I'm under the impression from the media that he was part of a gang or something. And they shot the baby, a 6-month-old baby, 5 times. And I find that incomprehensible. I can't understand this, why a person would shoot a harmless baby 5 times.
Well, you said it, mental illness. And we have a tendency to take mental illness not serious. Angry, balled up inside, stress that no one paid attention to. Somebody knew this person that pulled that trigger on that 6-month-old baby. Somebody knew in their family that this young man had a problem and ignored it. What we must begin to do, we must begin to recognize the signs of bereavement, signs of anger, signs of illness. When they go to, I'm certain at some point or another, this young man that pulled this trigger was diagnosed at the hospital with mental illness.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to a break, and then we will come back and we'll continue our conversation.
Absolutely. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to Carol's Journey. We're going to continue our conversation about mental illness with Jackie Rowe-Adams.
You know, it's sad that no respect is left out there for a young person, for a person, period, to kill a baby. No respect. So that tells you right there it's a mental problem. And we have lost so many of our mental health providers.
Yes.
Money have to, and let's talk about that for a second. We need to talk about putting money back into our mental providers system. We need our mental providers to help us with our mental health, this mental illness.
Yes.
They are letting people out of hospitals at one time. People
Yes.
are being pushed in the subway.
Right.
The young man gonna shoot a 6-month-old baby. Clearly, that is saying something. Then we have to begin, Carol, to stop sweeping stuff under the rug, under the carpet, and talk about it.
Right.
Do something about it. Report it. And do, just like they're saying, background checks for guns,
Right.
background checks for mental illness.
That's right.
Because a person might not have a criminal record, but they have a mental illness record.
That's right. And one of the things I have problems with is now that the insurance companies are not focusing on paying for mental illness. Mental illness seems to be on the back burner. I don't know how it is now, but they need to be, in terms of the insurance companies, in terms of any kind of legislation dealing with health, there need to be something in there that address mental illness. Because like you said before, it seems to be a mental problem. It has to be a mental problem for someone to shoot a baby. And just recently I heard where a tenant was shot and killed by the owner over a dispute for money. He shot, according to the media, he approached a young lady who was a little bit behind our rent. He was kind of upset over it. He started beating her. She got away, went upstairs to another apartment, told her brother. Her brother came downstairs to confront the landlord, and the landlord shot him. And then this man turned around and took the gun and tried to shoot her. She was in her place with children, 9 and 11 years old. One of the children jumped out the window, maybe, I don't know, 18 feet, I think, so, and ran to the police to report that this man was trying to kill his mother. Now, this was a landowner that did this, and his statement was, I got to get all these effing people out of my building. And that's why when you talked about mental illness, something had to happen with him to want to
Absolutely.
shoot the
That's
woman.
not normal. That's not normal. So something triggered him. Again, it's mental. Let me say this, Carolyn. As you know, I lost 2 kids to gun violence. I had a choice. I could be angry, hate the world. I could have went suicidal because the pain is still there. It never leaves. But I decided to try to make a difference. I decided to try to help another mother save another child, help another mother from not having the pain that I endured. Because as our support group, Harlem Mothers Save, we have mothers and fathers that dealt with mental illness. Some of them had nervous breakdowns.
Yes.
Some of them just went mental, had to end up in the psychiatrist,
Right.
had to end up in the hospital for psychological programs, have to seek counseling. All of this plays a part. But if you don't have a good support team,
Right.